This is, in layman's terms, brought to you by Laman Library.
Hello, my name is Clarke Waters, journalist, an aspiring, esteemed journalist. I keep getting stuck with writing articles on things like ambidextrous dolphins and people who think they may have seen a UFO just as their sleeping pills were kicking in. But I have finally found something better. After stumbling upon this, in layman's terms, blog and podcast, I have been enthralled with the life of Terrance. When I asked him if I could begin writing articles based on his library adventures, he said, "Sure, I guess." I have the feeling that when this article goes public, all the other journalists will esteem me so hard, my wife will stop dipping my mail in bacon grease and feeding it to me when I'm not paying attention. Before I sit down at my laptop and type this up, I'm making an audio recording of my ideas. Then I'm going to have that sleepy, bearded guy post them on the library's social media to make sure the patrons are satisfied with my portrayal of the famous Terrance and the famous Laman. Terrance has already made several similar recordings of his own blog. I think I'll just pick up where he left off with Blog 8, Dream Cup. In the long ago year of 2019, the night after Terrance saw a man drop his scrumptious-looking ground beef rich burrito on the men's room floor at Laman, Terrance had a dream that would deeply disturb him right up until he checked Facebook first thing the next morning. After attending his daughter's chess tournament, Terrance bought a burrito of his own on the way back to his house because he knew he wouldn't be able to sleep unless he saw to it that ground beef was treated the right way for a change. Despite his good intentions, he forgot what his mother always told him about not eating right before bed. Terrance dreamed that he was in the lovely Laman Library, which is how Terrance and all the dream patrons referred to it, like it was a Hollywood starlet, or like how Terrance initially asked me to refer to him in these articles. He thought he was about to have a normal afternoon there, and maybe read a couple of magazines. He looked down at himself and saw that he was wearing a badge on his chest and a whistle around his neck. On further squinting, Terrance discovered that the badge had the shape of a book engraved into it. Out of the corner of his eye, Terrance saw a blur and smelled Capri Sun breath. There was a kid running between the shelves at over 9 miles per hour. Red and blue lights flashed out of Terrance's eye holes, and he pursued the misguided miner. They zigzagged throughout the entire fiction section. Luckily, it was a slow day, so the child didn't knock anyone over. But Terrance knew it was a matter of time before they ran into someone. He had to stop the tomfoolery before there were any collateral damages. Having never worn the badge and whistle before, Terrance only had cheesy cop movies to fall back on. He shouted, "Freeze, punk!" And the unruly kid transformed into a book. The book hovered for a second, then fell to the ground. Again, finding himself not knowing what to do, Terrance placed the book on the shelf under C for Capri Sun breath. Terrance heard the thumping bass of hip-hop from the reading area. He beelined straight to the source, the man blaring Kendrick Lamar in a public space. Terrance was a fan of Kendrick himself, having discovered him on Freagle. However, he was on the job, and he had to put that aside. There was a time and a place for such artistry. As if operating under its own free will, Terrance's voice sang, "I am a sinner, who's probably gonna sin again. Lord forgive me, things I don't understand. Sometimes I need to be alone." The misguided hip-hop enthusiast turned into a buck, too. It really killed Terrance's vibe. Terrance thought he should perhaps take the book that used to be a person, to a staff member and explain the situation. Maybe they'd laugh about it, and upon scanning the barcode, the book would safely beep back into being a patron again. But what if Terrance got in trouble instead? He put the book on the shelf and walked away quicker than before, but without running in the library, of course. He wasn't a monster. Terrance decided that he would lay low for a while so he wouldn't slip up and create a whole shelf of trapped souls. He sat down and tried to read his book, which probably was a book before, not a person. But he only did this after maybe turning several more people into books, as he put it. He couldn't focus. He looked up and he saw multiple infractions like not immediately throwing away trash or breathing too loudly in the quiet zone. Terrance then had a fall from grace. He decided that he would find a way to nab the people who broke the rules without getting caught himself. Terrance wrapped a tiny microphone into a burrito, placed it in the bathroom because that's a natural location for burrito eating. It was filled with 100% vegan ground beef, so it wasn't such a travesty. He put his earpiece in so he could hear what was going on and waited outside. Terrance heard a familiar assailant say, "It's about that time again," followed by chewing noises that were just plain gross. So Terrance's subconsciousness replaced them with a drum solo. After the final crash of a cymbal, there was a pause that lasted too long. Terrance became uncomfortable and almost obscenely sweaty with anticipation. Terrance was afraid the suspect had eaten enough of the burrito to find the microphone. Then he heard the man say, "Well, I've eaten half the burrito. Time to make a totally awesome cheese stain across that sparkly clean floor. Oh yeah, oh yeah." The plop of the fallen Mexican food was louder than a tiger's growl. Terrance burst through the door and put his entire lung's worth of breath through his shrieking whistle. The burrito desecrating individual transformed into an entire dictionary. Terrance left the bathroom as fast as he could, not taking the time to wipe the sweat off his brow or put his best fake smile on his face. He found a free chair in the reading area, which was difficult because the dream giraffes were having a meeting. An androgynous librarian with the blonde, spiky hair and a leather jacket like Billy Idol came up to Terrance with a cart full of books that used to be patrons. She's saying, "Hey, little Terrance, what have you done? Hey, little Terrance, who's the only one? Hey, little Terrance, shotgun." Terrance felt his arm squish, morphing into a table of contents. He woke up to his daughter, Penelope, laying with her head on the pillow next to his, her body cutting off the circulation to his arm. She'd had a bad dream, too. If Terrance learned anything from this ground beef-inducing experience, it's that he should never take matters into his own hands at the library. As for me, Clarke Waters, all I can do for now is hope this Terrance gig goes well and make sure I don't swallow the electric bill, so I can remember to pay it before the power goes out. Wait, was that a flicker?
Thank you for listening. Stay tuned next week for another episode of In Layman's Terms.